In this video, we'll be talking about the reproduction in organisms. This is in continuation of the previous video in which we have discussed various methods of asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is actually the fusion of the male and the female gametes which are formed as a result of the meiosis, and this individual gametes which are contributed by the male as well as the female may be from the same individuals or from the different individuals, that is one male parent and the other female parent. We have already discussed about if the individual is having both male and female reproductive organs, it will be known as a hermaphrodite, like we have discussed about the earthworm and all in the previous video. Whereas it may be separately, the gametes may be contributed by male and female, just as in the case of human beings. So the process of sexual reproduction chiefly involves the formation of the gametes and the fusion of the gametes. The formation of the gametes involve a very important division, cell division, that is the meiosis, because the meiosis helps in the reduction of the chromosomal number to haploid. Originally, the diploid chromosomes are present in an organism, but this meiotic division reduces the number of chromosomes to exactly half so as to restore the original species chromosomal number. Now, before an organism reaches to the reproductive age or before it starts reproducing, it has several phases, and those phases or those phases are that is the juvenile phase, we have the reproductive phase, and the senescent phase. These three phases are there in the lifespan of an organism. Now, when we talk of the lifespan, we have already discussed that the lifespan of an organism varies differently in different kind of organisms. Some of the organisms have a very short lifespan, whereas few organisms have long lifespan. This juvenile phase is also known as the vegetative phase. In the case of plants, we will call it as a vegetative phase. And during this phase, the plant will continue to grow but will not flower. So juvenile phase or the vegetative phase is the period during which the reproduction does not occur, and instead the development of the plant take place. Now, this phase is also different. The juvenile phase or the vegetative phase will be different in different organisms. For example, in certain plants which are annual, that means only once they'll flower and they die. In those kind of plants, the juvenile phase lasts for a short duration of time, and within a span of 1 year, these plants will continue to grow, reproduce, and they die. So there are several plants that follow this life pattern or life cycle. Some other plants which have a lifespan of 2 years. During 1 year, the first year, they will continue to grow, and in the second phase, they will flower and they will die. So the first type of plants that is having only lifespan of 1 year are known as annuals, whereas the plants that flower for the lifespan is of 2 years, they will be known as biennials. And certain plants are there which have a very long lifespan, that is they flower, and between the flowering again they will start maturing and again the flowering, so that their lifespan is very long, and these plants are known as perennials. So there are different examples of these plants which are annuals, biennials, and perennials. But there are certain exceptions to the flowering pattern as well in the case of plants. Well, like we have the bamboo species that reproduces or that starts flowering between 50 to 100 years. That is a long time. And again, there the Nirakunji, that is again a flower that the plant that flowers in 12 years. So it's a long time, and the flowering period differs in different species of plants. Let's talk about the animals. Animals also have a juvenile phase during which the growth, initial years of growth prior to reproduction. Now, this when an organism, that is the animals, when they change from juvenile phase to reproductive phase, that is the end of the juvenile phase, will be marked as reproductive phase. Now, during this reproductive phase or initial years, that is known as the puberty, during which the animals will show lot of changes in their morphology as well as the physiology. That will actually lead to the reproductive phase. So we say the juvenile phase, the end of the juvenile phase is known as the reproductive phase. Now, this reproductive phase also varies. Like there's some when we talk of the animals breed for a certain animals breed for a certain period of time, and those animals will be known as seasonal breeders, whereas certain animals will be breeding for there is no fixed season for that, and those will be known as continuous breeders. Now, in the case of birds are mostly seasonal breeders. Now, when we see the birds, these birds lay eggs during a particular time of the year. However, for the benefit of the man, they have to commercially harness, like for the production of egg and all, we have manipulated the breeding season by either by giving them feed that increases the or by that increases the rate of reproduction, or early maturation, that is the juvenile phase is cut short and the reproductive phase lasts for a longer time. Also, by giving them hormones so that the animals start reproducing faster. So this is the commercial manipulation of animals so as to meet the need of the food. Also, we find that certain animals, they have a particular period during which they can breed. Now, let's talk about the placental mammals. The placental mammals, that is the mammals having the placenta, these placental mammals have also a fixed cycle, some of them which are known as non-primates and primates. The primates actually are the animals that have the menstrual cycle, whereas the non-primates do not have the menstrual cycle, but yet in both the cases, the ovary undergoes a period of cyclic changes. So there are cyclic changes in both primates and non-primates. Non-primates are the organism in which the ovary definitely undergoes the cyclic changes, but here the menstruation does not occur. For example, dog is there, cat is there, all these animals which are very common. There is no menstrual cycle over here in the case of cat, the female. Now, the primates, on the other hand, such as the human beings, the apes, etc., they show cyclic changes in the ovary. At the same time, the menstruation is accompanied. If the fertilization does not take place, then the placenta is shed off. So here, there is a difference in the cycle. Now, non-primates, during the estrous cycle, the female is on heat and is ready to mate. Whereas in the case of primates, these are continuous breeders because there is no fixed cycle or there is no heat period involved. In the non-primates, there is a heat period involved that actually facilitate or during which the female is ready to accept the male, and as a result the fertilization will be taking place. Now, when we talk of fertilization, the fertilization or the fusion of the gametes result into the formation of the zygote, and this zygote then develops into by a series of changes, it leads to the formation of the new organism. Now, when we will be discussing about the various steps in the reproductive phase, it is important for you to understand that during the sexual reproduction, because during the reproductive phase, there has to be formation of the gametes. And these gametes are formed by special cells which are known as meiocytes. So the Meiocytes, in the case of organisms that reproduce sexually, help in the formation of the gametes by meiosis. Meiocytes will be having a diploid or two set of chromosomes, but after the meiotic division, that is the meiosis, it will form haploid gametes. The meiocytes are therefore also called as the germ mother cells because they help in the formation of the haploid gamete. It is a common term which is given in the case of male and female both, because all the cells are actually not taking part in the formation of the gametes.